Thanks for joining from all over the globe. Today we'll be discussing about the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So we'll start with a song uh, about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the song says it's written by one of the Gauriya Acharyas, I think one of Srila Prabhupada's god brothers. আমার গৌরাঙ্গ সুন্দর প্রেম জলধর তপত কাঞ্চন কায় নদিয়া নগরে হরি প্রেম ভরে নাচিয়া নাচিয়া গায়. Oh my Gauranga Sundar, he is a ocean of devotional love, and his bodily hue is golden, molten gold. In Nadia Nagar, in the city of Nadia, he infuses everyone with the prem of devotional love of the Supreme Lord Hari, and he sings it in a very sweet, dancing manner all over the Nadia city. Then it says, Rakata Kamalo Karo Padatalo Shatodalo Mukho Shoshi Nokore Nokore Shatoto Bihore Shoshodhoro Rashi Rashi. His hands and feet are like lotus red. If you see the lotus petals, they are reddish, pinkish red. So his hands and the lotus feet are like that, and his face is like the uh, uh, lotus flower and also moon. Both together. Like if it is, if you can think like lotus flower has that beautiful reddish spots, and moon is like beautiful effulgence. So it is a combination of both. Nokore nokore শতত বিহারে শশধর রাশি রাশি. And from his nails, even from his nails, which we consider very insignificant, it always emanates very effulgent rays, like moon, mm, like un- uncountable rays of moon, something like that. Yeah, go down, please. বেনু বিনা রব মানে পরাভাব কণ্ঠে মধুর ভাষ তাহে অবিরাম গায় হরিনাম জাগায় প্রেম বিপাশা. So by uh, uh, Lord Chaitanya's voice actually defeats the music of flute or bina, that especially stringed instrument. And in that voice, he always chants Harinam, the the Harinam Sankirtan. He always does it, and which increases the thirst for devotional love among the listeners. শ্রীবাস অঙ্গনে নিতায়ের শানে নাম সংকীর্তনে নাচে ঘরে ঘরে গিয়া জীব উদ্ধারিয়া যারে তারে প্রেম যাচে. In Srivas Thakur's courtyard, Lord Chaitanya dances with Nityananda Prabhu and chants in Harinam Sankirtan, in a congregational chanting. And he goes door to door to deliver the fallen conditioned souls and gives the pure devotional service to each and every one. It's just like, I think, patra patra bichar nahi nahi sthana sthan je jaha paye tare kore premodan. Like in Chaitanya Chaitamrita it says, like he doesn't consider who is eligible, who is not. He gives everyone, whoever he reaches, the pure devotional service, the love of pure devotional service. ভারত ভ্রমিয়া পদ পারসিয়া পুত করিল ধুলি সে চরণ রজ হর কমলাজ সদা শিরে লয় তুলি. Lord Chaitanya traveled different parts of India, right? He traveled to South India, he traveled to Vrindavan. I think from like till Maharashtra, he traveled in South India region, and in Vrindavan he traveled different places on the way, like Kashi, Prayag, and then he stopped in Vrindavan. So, and also he traveled to Puri, Orissa. So these places are all purified on the touch of his lotus feet. All the dhulis, the dust of these places are purified in that manner. So that dust of his lotus feet, Shecharana Rajo, Hara Kamalaja, Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, Hara is Lord Shiva and Kamalaja is Lord Brahma, they always take it upon their head. Please go down. লীলারও তুলনা মেলে না তুমি লীলাময় হরি হরিনাম দিলে জীব উদ্ধারিলে নদিয়াতে অবতারি. There is no comparison of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, because he is also that Leelamay Hari, that embodiment of the same personality as Lord Krishna, who is considered also Leela Purushottam. But Lord Chaitanya's Leela also cannot be found in any other scriptures. Very special. Harinam dile jiva uddharile nadiyate avatari. He gave the Harinam and also delivered all the living entities by descending in the city of Nadia. Okay. Yeah. I think there is a verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita which is my favorite verse, that লোকে নাহি শুনিয়াছে শাস্ত্রে নাহি দেখি হেন লীলা ব্যক্ত করে ন্যাসী চিরমণি. Lord Chaitanya manifested that kind of pastime which was not seen in the scriptures, which was not experienced by even by the sadhu purusas, like the sages. They also did not experience such kind of lila pastime. Okay, so I will not use any instrument because I found that by using instrument it topples my voice. I want to actually sing with my empty voice only, sing only voice. Okay, I hope that is okay. আমার গৌরাঙ্গ সুন্দর প্রেম জলধর তপত কাঞ্চন গৌরাঙ্গ সুন্দর প্রেম জলধর তপত কাঞ্চন নদিয়া নগরে হরি প্রেম ভরে, নদিয়া নগরে হরি প্রেম ভরে, নাচিয়া নাচিয়া গায় গোরা, নাচিয়া নাচিয়া গায়। নদিয়া নগরে হরি প্রেম ভরে, নাচিয়া নাচিয়া গায় গোরা, নাচিয়া নাচিয়া গায়। রক্ত কমল কর পদ তল, শতদল মুখ শশী। রক্ত কমল কর পদ তল, শশধল মুখ শশী। নখরে নখরে সতত বিহরে, নখরে নখরে সতত বিহরে, শশধর রাশে রাশে গোরা, শশধর রাশে রাশে। নখরে নখরে সতত বিহরে, শশধর রাশে রাশে গোরা, শশধর রাশে রাশে। বেনু বিনারব মনে পরাভব, কণ্ঠে মধুর ভাষ। বেনু বিনারব মনে পরাভব, কণ্ঠে মধুর ভাষ। তাহে অবিরাম গায় হরি নাম, তাহে অবিরাম গায় হরি নাম, জাগায় প্রেম পিপাসা গোরা, জাগায় প্রেম পিপাসা। তাহে হরি নাম গায়, তাহে অবিরাম গায় হরি নাম, জাগায় প্রেম পিপাসা গোরা, জাগায় প্রেম পিপাসা। শিবাশয় অঙ্গনে নিতায়ে রসনে, হরিনামেতে যে নাচে। শিবাস অঙ্গনে নিতায়ে রসনে, নাম সংকীর্তনে নাচে। ঘরে ঘরে গিয়া জীবয় উদ্ধারিয়া, ঘরে ঘরে গিয়া জীবয় উদ্ধারিয়া, যারে তারে প্রেম যাচে গোরা, যারে তারে প্রেম যাচে ঘরে ঘরে গিয়া দিবই উদ্ধরিয়া যারে তারে প্রেম যাচে গোরা যারে তারে প্রেম যাচে ভারত ভ্রমিয়া পদ পারসিয়া পুত করেল ধুলি ভারত ভ্রমিয়া পদ পারসিয়া পুত করিল ধুলি সে চরণ রাজ হর কমলাজ সে চরণ রাজ হর কমলাজ সদা শিরে লয় তুলি গোরা সদা শিরে লয় তুলি সে চরণ রাজ হর কমলাজ সদা শিরে লয় তুলি গোরা সদা শিরে লয় তুলি গৌরাঙ্গ সুন্দর প্রেম জল ধর তপত কাঞ্চন কায় লীলার তুলনা মেলে না তুমি লীলাময় হরি লীলার তুলনা মেলে না তুমি লীলাময় হরি হরি নাম দিলে জীবয় উদ্ধারিলে হরি নাম দিলে জীবয় উদ্ধারিলে নদিয়াতে অবতরে নদিয়াতে অবতরে আমার গৌরাঙ্গ সুন্দর প্রেম জল ধর তপত কাঞ্চন কায় গৌরাঙ্গ সুন্দর প্রেম জল ধর তপত কাঞ্চন কায় নদিয়া নগরে হরি প্রেম ভরে নদিয়া নগরে হরি প্রেম ভরে নাচিয়া নাচিয়া গায় গোরা নাচিয়া নাচিয়া গায় নদিয়া নগরে হরি প্রেম ভরে নাচিয়া নাচিয়া গায় গোরা নাচিয়া নাচিয়া গায় হরে কৃষ্ণ 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 হরে 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 রাম 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 হরে 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 কৃষ্ণ 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 হরে 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 রাম 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 হরে 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 কৃষ্ণ 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 হরে 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 রাম রাম হরে 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 কৃষ্ণ 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 হরে হরে. Thank you everyone for bearing up with me. It's a different experience to sing without kartal. Okay, so let's put up the Mangalarati, Mangalacharan prayer. Sorry, not Mangalarati, Mangalacharan prayers. We can do together. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Sayang Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapadantikam Bandeham Shri Guru Sri Yuttapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathannitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhotam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakha Nitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhur Jagatapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radha Vrindavaneshwari Vishwanu Shude Devi Pranamami Hari Priye वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Lokam karati vachalam pangam langayate girim yatkipat tamaham bande paramananda madhavam Sri Guru Dinataranam Sri Chaitanyam Ishwaram. Okay, thanks everyone for joining today's session. So can you please put up in the screen the translation of the chapter 13 of Bhagavad Gita? Yeah, we can read. Maybe each of us read. How many people are there? Yeah. Each of us can read like 4 verses. Yes. So I will start. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chapter 13, Nature, the Enjoyer and Consciousness. Text 1 to 2 translation. Translation and purport given by His Divine Guest A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Arjuna said, "O my dear Krishna, I wish to know about Prakriti nature, Purusha the enjoyer, and the field, and the knower of the field, and of knowledge, and the object of knowledge." The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "This body, O son of Kunti, is called the field, and one who knows this body is called the knower of the field." Text 3. O son of Bharata, you should understand that I am also the knower in all bodies, and to understand this body and its knower is called knowledge. That is my opinion. Now, please hear my brief description of this field of activity and how it is constituted, what its changes are, whence it is produced, who that knower of the field of activities is, and what his influences are. So, Balaram, you want to read next 4 verses?
Yes, Prabhu. That knowledge of the field of activities and of the knower of activities is described by various sages in various Vedic writings. It is especially presented in Vedanta Sutra with all reasoning as to cause and effect. The five great elements, false ego, intelligence, the unmanifested, the 10 senses and the mind, the five sense objects, desire, hatred, happiness, distress, the aggregate, the life symptoms, and convictions, all these are considered, in summary, to be the field of activities and its interactions. Should I read this proof?
Yeah, you can read also this one.
Humility, pridelessness, nonviolence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home and the rest, even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self realization, and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I declare to be knowledge, and besides this, whatever there may be, is ignorance.
Thank you. Shraddha Mataji, are you able to read Mataji? Next 4 verses.
Yes, Prabhu, Dandavat Pranams. Thank you so
Okay,
much
Hare
for
Krishna.
giving an opportunity to read. Starting from text 13, I shall now explain the knowable, knowing which you will taste the eternal, Brahman, the spirit, beginningless and subordinate to me, lies beyond the cause and effect of this material world. Everywhere are my hands and legs, his eyes, heads and faces, and he has ears everywhere. In this way, the super soul exists, pervading everything. The supersoul is the original source of all senses, yet he is without senses. He is unattached, although he is the maintainer of all living beings. He transcends the modes of nature, and at the same time he is the master of all the modes of material nature. Text 16. Although the supersoul appears to be divided among all beings, he is never divided. He is situated as one. Although he is the maintainer of every living entity, it is to be understood that he devours and develops all.
Thank you, Mataji. So, Vijay Damodar Prabhu, can you read text 16 and then you can go to the 18?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you for your order. So text 16, the supreme truth exists outside and inside of all living beings, the moving and the non-moving. Because he is subtle, he is beyond the power of the material senses to see or to know. Although far, far away, he is also near to all. Text 17. Although 18 you have to read. Okay, yeah, text 18. He is the source of light in all luminous objects. He is beyond the darkness of matter and is unmanifested. He is knowledge, he is the object of knowledge, he is the goal of knowledge. He is situated in everyone's heart. Text 19. Thus the field of activities, the body, knowledge, and knowable have been summarily described by me. Only my devotees can understand this thoroughly, thus attain to my nature. Text 20. Material nature and the living entities should be understood to be beginningless. Their transformations and the mode of matter are products of material nature.
Thank you, Prabhu. Tadya Seva Prabhu, can you read the next 4 verses till 24? Hare Krishna. Tadya Seva Prabhu, are you there? Okay. So, Rohini, can you read the next 4 verses, 21 to 24?
Hare Krishna. Yes,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Text 21. Nature is said to be the cause of all causes, of all material causes and effects, whereas the living entity is the cause of the various sufferings and enjoyments in this world. The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus, he meets with good and evil among various species. Yet in this body there is another, a transcendental enjoyer who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter, and who is known as the supersoul. One who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity, and the interaction of the modes of nature is sure to attain liberation. He will not take birth here again, regardless of his present position.
Thank you. Niharika, can you please read next 4 verses?
Yes, Prabhu.
Can I also read?
Oh yeah, Prabhu, I just called you just before, Rohini. Maybe after Niharika you can read, Prabhu.
Okay.
So I start at 25, right, Prabhu?
Yes.
Okay. Some perceive the supersoul within themselves through meditation, others through the cultivation of knowledge, and still others through working without fruitive desires. Again, there are those who, although not conversant in spiritual knowledge, begin to worship the Supreme Person upon hearing him from others. Because of their tendency to hear from authorities, they also transcend the path of birth and death. O chief of the Bharatas, know that whatever you see in existence, both the moving and the non-moving, is only a combination of the field of activities and the knower of the field. One who sees the supersoul accompanying the individual soul in all bodies, and who understands that neither the soul nor the supersoul within the destructible body is ever destroyed, actually sees.
Thank you. Tadya Seva Prabhu, please go ahead. Hare Krishna.
Sorry. One
Yeah,
would
go ahead.
see that all the activities are performed by the body, which is created of material nature, and sees that the self does nothing, actually sees. When a sensible man ceases to see different identities due to different material bodies, and he sees how beings are expanded everywhere, he attains to the Brahman conception.
So Prabhu, 29 is not read, I guess. 29.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So 29. One who sees the super soul equally present everywhere, in every living being, does not degrade himself by his mind. Thus he approaches the transcendental destination.
Yeah. Now we can go to 32.
Thank you. 32. Those with the vision of eternity can see that the imperishable soul is transcendental, eternal, and beyond the modes of nature. Despite contact with the body, O Arjuna, the soul neither does anything nor is entangled.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay.
So Barsha Mataji, are you able to read the last 3 verses?
Thank you.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you. The sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything, although it is all-pervading. Similarly, the soul situated in Brahman vision does not mix with the body, though situated in that body. Text 34. O son of Bharata, as the sun alone illuminates all this universe, so does the living entity, one within the body, illuminate the entire body by consciousness. Text 35. Those who see with eyes of knowledge the difference between the body and the knower of the body, and can also understand the process of liberation from bondage in material nature, attain to the supreme goal. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Sorry, I missed some devotees to call for reading because we have only 35 verses to read. Okay. Anyway, so thanks for reading. So we will actually go over some of the verses of this chapter as we are reading in the chapter a day. This chapter now, which is known in Sanskrit, Prakrita Purusha and Viveka Yoga, nature, enjoyer, and consciousness. This nature, consciousness, and enjoyer, I think. So this is kind of a transition point in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So if we actually consider Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the Srimad Bhagavad Gita has like 3 sections, like the devotees or our acharyas, they classified Srimad Bhagavad Gita content in 3 sections. One is the Karma Shataka, which is the first 6 chapters. Then comes the Bhakti Shataka, which is the middle 6 chapters. And the last 6 chapters are called Jnana Shataka, means where the Gyan is actually leading to Bhakti. So in the first 6 chapter, if you see that, Krishna was giving different ways to attain perfection through the work. Especially he was explaining him that, how you need to understand that you are not this body. So you have to work based on your particular inclination, based on your particular quality. And, of course, your training, those things you need to consider. But you have to work in such a way that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, means like Krishna himself, will be pleased with your activities. That he explains very elaborately in chapter 5, because Arjuna was a little bit bewildered after getting the knowledge of Jnana Yoga. He thought like, Jnana is supreme intelligence. So how by doing activity I can attain Jnana? And then we know that in Bhagavatam, Krishna and Sutta Goswami says that if you actually perform activities for the pleasure of Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is Krishna, then Jnana is a byproduct. Jnana and renunciation, Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita, Janatya Subhairagyam Jnanam Cha Yad Ahitakam. That is 1 to 7. So it is a byproduct. So he will automatically get Jnana. But if he is endeavoring for Jnana, that path is very, very difficult. In fact, in 12th chapter, we read that there are different way to realize the Supreme Lord. So the Jnanis, they want to focus on the impersonal feature of the Lord, and that is a very austere process. And that understanding is also not complete. That's just partial understanding of the Supreme Absolute Truth. Then he started actually explaining in the next 6th chapter, 7th chapter onward, where we see that he is giving the knowledge about the jivas, because if you recall, there are 5 subject matters are discussed in Bhagavad Gita, which is Ishvara, Prakriti, Jiva, Karma, and Kala. Means Ishvara means the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then the nature, Prakriti, then Jiva, the living entities, then Kala, the time, and Karma is the fruitive activities. So these 5 are the main subject matters. Anything in Bhagavad Gita you can actually correlate with any of the 5 subject matters. So in the 7th chapter onwards, he started actually giving the relationship of the Supreme Lord, between the Supreme Lord and the living entity and the nature, and those things he started explaining. What is the Sarupa, eternal identity of each of these objects. And he very vividly or very nicely he put together, what should be their supreme occupation in the 9th chapter. And in the 10th chapter he actually manifested his opulences, and 11th chapter he showed everything is how practically coming from him. In 10th chapter he said in verses or in his words, but in 11th chapter he showed it in his by personal manifestation, Vishwarupa Darshana. And in the 12th chapter, he actually glorified the process of devotional service above all the process of perfection. And he showed by doing devotional service, one attained all the Vaishnava qualities, those things. And in 13th chapter, and now it's the transition point where Krishna is trying to focus, how knowledge can lead us to the path of bhakti. In the he is introducing many topics. It's not only he's on his own he's introducing, because Arjuna he's doing it through Arjuna. Arjuna is asking questions regarding different aspects, because he is a very inquisitive student. So he asked, if you go to the first verse, maybe I can actually read from here. Arjuna uvacha prakritim purusham chaiva shatram shatragyam evacha etad veditam itswami Jnanam Gyayam Chakeshava. So he asks actually to understand 6 aspects. First, what is Prakritim? Means Prakriti. What is the nature? And then Purusha. Purusha in the sense it is enjoyer. The person who enjoys, that is actually Purusha. Okay, yeah, you see that word to word, yeah. Cha Eva means also. Eva certainly. Kshetram means field, the field where the activities are done. And Kshetragyam, that means the person who knows that field, knower of the field. And then he's telling Kshetragya, Kshetragya, okay. And then he's telling Jnanam and Gyayam. And what is knowledge and what is to be known, means object of the knowledge. These 6 subjects are asked by Arjuna in the first verse of the 13th chapter. And Bhagavan Krishna, he started answering from the in the first second verse. He actually answered the third and fourth query. If you see that Kshetrom and Kshetragyam, he did not answer that first 2 queries, like which is Prakriti and Purusha. He answered that in the later part of this chapter. So he is telling that actually Kshetram is our body, the body where we are doing the activity, the field of activity, that is actually Kshetra. So this Kshetra, if you actually go back to 2nd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and also to some extent, the 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, there the Sankhya philosophy is explained in at large, right? Very nicely Sankhya philosophy is put together by Lord Krishna, which is actually very difficult to understand. In 11th canto also, Lord Krishna actually explained vividly different aspects of Sankhya philosophy to Uddhava. He did not only spoke like that 24 elements. He told, okay, some acharyas, some tattagya, those who know the spiritual science, they define Sankhya philosophy with respect to these elements. Then he mentioned that some acharyas, they actually define it, but everywhere he culminated with the pradhana, which is coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which coexists with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but it's not part of the Supreme Personality of Godhead entirely. Like water and oil, they don't mix together even though they coexist together, something like that. So if we actually go to the 2nd canto where the 24 elements are described, that should be our reference point to define the Kshetragya, the field of activities. There, Lord Krishna actually explained, Lord Vishnu, I should say, to Lord Brahma, that that there are 5 gross elements, which are that earth, water, ether, fire, and air, and then 5 knowledge of senses, 5 knowledge of senses, Jnanendriya, that knowledge acquiring senses, which are eyes, which ears, 2 ears, then your nose, your tongue, and your skin. Chakku, Karna, Nashika, Jihva, Tak in Sanskrit. Then 5 senses for activities. They are like 2 hands, 2 legs, our voice is also considered karma indriya, because we dictate things and we express our action there through that. Anus and genitals, payu and upastha, these are the 5 elements. Shara, hasta, pada, payu and upastha are 5 elements which are helping us to do our activities. And then he is telling about the 5 objects which is enjoyed by these five senses and 5 elements, which are like sound, touch, vision, smell and taste. Shabdo, Barno, Roop, Rash, Gandha, Sparsha. Roop, Rash, Shabdo, Gandha, Sparsha, Barno. Yeah, this 5 elements. Yeah. So I think I have repeated one. So yeah, anyways, these are the 5 elements. So 5, 5, 5, 5. 4 times 5, right? Or 5, 5, 5, 5. Yeah, 4 times 5 is 20. Now add 3 subtle senses to it, which is mind, intelligence, and false ego. 3 times. 3 means you can say like ahankar also, ego also. And then the everything which culminates ultimately to the pradhan, which is the one single entity. So these are the 24 elements mentioned in the Sankhya philosophy, and in their all like when they stay in the unmanifested state, they are called all Mahatattva. Mahatattva is the actually source of all these 24 elements. From that, yeah, there is a progression how they are created. It's little technical. So yeah, that's a different subject matter altogether. So yeah, so this is actually the Kshetra, the field of activities. We use these elements, or these elements are facilitating the activities of our body, or in the material world we act based on these 24 elements. And then Kshatragyam. Yeah, anyone has any question?
Prabhu,
Yes, Bhuji.
is Mahatattva. Um, so from the unmanifested form comes the manifested form, right?
Correct. Yes.
So in the unmanifested form, it is called Mahatattva.
Yes.
And then in the manifested form, is it called Pradhan?
Yes. Mahatattva to Pradhan is the first transformation, and then from there it expands. So in second canto, it is actually it explained how from one element to the other element is actually progressing. So when they coexisted with the Mahavishnu, that in this case actually Karanadaksha Mahavishnu, they are in the unmanifest state, which is called Mahatattva. But then when they start manifesting from one element to the another element, they are called different. There is a progression, like how from ether to sound came, and from sound the water, like there is a progression. I cannot recall. Sound to fire actually, and then fire to vision. So there is a way everything has actually progressed.
That is fine, Prabhu.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then in the Sankhya philosophy, in Srimad Bhagavatam, it was discussed in multiple cantos.
Yes, multiple places also. Yeah.
And then I think in one place he was saying, Krishna was saying to Uddhava that some sages or munis, they say that this material creation is 24 elements. Some say it is 23 elements.
Correct.
Some say it is 18, and some say even 12.
That is very good. Yeah, that's why
He tries to explain why each one is having his own definition of.
Yeah, that is they may have taken some of the elements as the source of other elements. Like I was telling that from ether comes the sound. So they may be they may have considered, I don't know exactly, I'm just guessing here. You can say I'm just speculating. Ether and sound, they consider it as one element. So it can be defined in different levels, but we take a standard as 24 elements. That's what I actually in the beginning also I told that it can be.
Prabhuji.
Yes, Bhuji.
So maybe I can add something here. So I think it's like And once again, I don't have concrete information, but I think this is probably the answer. It's like someone says, what is America? So you can say the landmass that is between Canada and Mexico as a part of the continent. Someone else may define, oh, it is actually the landmass there, and as well as the Hawaiian Islands, which are off. Someone can also say that when the presidents of the world meet, then when Trump is walking, whoever is the president, I don't know. So they can say, oh, here comes America. So depending on the context, different aspects can manifest it or can be talked about. But what basically the concept is, what Sankhya is saying is, how do you break down things into the periodic elements, like that 108 elements for chemistry is there, right? And that is the concept, and depending on context, and different numbers can be mentioned.
Correct. Thank you, Babu. Just I have to, charge my laptop. It seems like it's out. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, thanks for adding that point. You're right. The way we want to define, it's up to us. Like I think some even periodic table also, there are different ways different chemists define, but now it is standardized for everyone's.
Oh, just one more
Yes,
reflection. Sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
The unmanifested form as Brahmanda or like Hiranyakarba?
Oh, I don't know that, Babu. If anybody can help me in that regard.
So Hiranyakarba is the egg, cosmic egg.
Okay.
It's believed in. I think the reference to the Hiranyakarba is so there in the oldest Rig Veda. I'm not talking about this as a material science, but it's in the ancient Vedic, philosophical understanding of the creation.
Okay.
So they say the Hiranyakarba came first, and then they talk about the Mahapurusha, and then from the Mahapurusha, the Brahmanas came, and then the Kshatriyas came, and then the Vaishyas came, and then the Shudras came, and then they talk about the day and night Purusha Sukta prayer, like the entire Sukta prayer is like it gives like in detail what's going on with that Brahmanda or Hiranyagarbha. Okay,
yeah, maybe I'm not familiar with that.
So it looks like there is a match between the Mahatattva and then the Hiranyagarbha.
Maybe I'm not sure of that, but yeah, anybody who
I think the 52044 describes a little bit about it, but essentially when we say, right, that there are so many material universes, so I think each one of them is representing that egg, and that is what they call it. And from the garb is, and when Brahmaji comes out, his name is also associated to that.
Yeah, thank you, Babu. Thank you for giving a reference.
Sometimes even Brahma is called as Hiranyagarbha. In some instances, you'll find.
Yes, I think 5. Mata, you're right. Actually, 3:32:8 describes worship of the Hiranyagarbha expansion of the personality of God remains within this material world. The when Lord Brahma also dies. So you're right, Mata.
So Hiranyakarba is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, or Lord Brahma's name is Hiranyakarba?
Both. They are referred to. Both are referred to.
Both, right? Yeah, because I know that. Yeah. Thank you, Mataji, for adding that part. Yeah, I think these are all.
Prabhupada sometimes also says that Mahat Tattva is in one corner of the spiritual world, and in the Mahat Tattva, Mahavishnu is lying, and from his pores all these are coming.
Yes,
and I think I think Dhamma Samhita also talks about the.
Yeah, Dhamma Samhita talks. Yes, correct. Yeah. The initial verses before that, the Stuti starts. There, how this material.
Yes, I can only tell you that that we are in the Bhakti Vaibhav. We are doing Canto 5, and which talks about the material world, and it is so complex, so complicated, and that the whole class. I mean, we do go into a lot of discussions every Sunday, and the whole class has come to the conclusion that we cannot understand it unless the mercy of the Lord comes to you. You'll find Himalayas defined as so many miles tall. It's like, what about this Himalayas? And then it looks like there are certain portions of Himalayas which are not manifest. to us. So like it talks of realms and concepts and dimensions. And the beauty of it all is, like Shivaswami Prabhu also said that, I'm not going to ask you what's the height of Sumeru Mountain, how much are the Himalayan mountains. It's all written there. He just said that, you just look at it as an energy of the Lord from, the Bhagavatam, Ritiritam, Yat Pratyata, that verse. And he just said that we just try to understand the Brahman a little bit from the perspective of that this is the energy of the Lord, and I'm trying to understand the Lord, and that's it. So that was a very good thing, right? And that takes you back to chapter 12 of Bhagavad Gita. Devotional service is the best. They're trying to rig the brains, because one of the things that the Prabhu was talking about, that how Munis will, one Muni will say 12 and one will 16, and then Prabhupada, I think somewhere says, and maybe somebody can help, says that a Muni has to differ from the other Muni.
Second chapter, yeah.
Like, yeah. So when you do a research, like you have to come up with something different, right, from the predecessor. Otherwise, it's not research.
Yes,
right? So that gets confusing and
too much speculation.
Yeah. Exactly. And about the elements, like those who don't believe in the soul won't talk about soul as one of the elements, and then some believe in soul but no God. So then one more element gets lost, and those were always my difficult chapters to read. Like you were saying, from some ether sound comes, and from this comes. It's like mind-boggling.
Yeah, it's a little difficult.
Yeah, Bhagavatam is a good thing, good grantha to keep you in place.
Yeah, it subdues your ego. I know everything.
Yes, it's a very humbling experience to try to understand the material world. I mean, simple things like here we read that the sun, in one of the verses we read in 13th chapter, that the sun is the only one that illuminates the entire universe, but it's not the case. So Krishna also will tell only this much as our intellect can understand. And then and in some place else to some other audience, he'll say a little bit more, knowing that the audience can, so I have been put into place very nicely. So, I'm never going to say that I know everything or I know a lot. Yeah, it's very humbling and very amazing. Yeah.
Thank you, Mataji, for clarifying our doubt. Yeah. So yeah, sometimes this knowledge, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he actually told in Jayavadharma that some of these knowledges will be manifested in your heart once you actually perfect your sadhana.
Yes.
Like how time works. It's not easy to understand. Like how time is eternal. How in the spiritual world, Lord is doing same pastimes again and again, and same personalities are actually, taking part in the pastime. So it's very difficult to understand for a conditioned soul. But these things are manifested in the heart. Divya Gyan Hriday Prakashita, right?
Yes.
Cannot be
Yes. Very right.
understood, right? Okay, so yeah, thank you, Mataji. So next, if you consider another aspect of this body, the field of activity, it has actually 6 stages. First, it takes birth, and then it starts, increasing, vriddhi, janma, vriddhi. Then there is a stage where you start, producing. Actually, you maintain your stage, means like you don't grow or anything, and then you start producing, which is called utpanya. And then at a certain point of time, you start deteriorating. Your body becomes jara, and then you die. Like this body dies. So these are the 6 stages. Actually, this is also explained by Lord Krishna in the 11th canto to Uddhava, that how these 6 stages take place in the bodily level. Yeah, so most of the concept of Bhagavad Gita are also reiterated in Uddhava Gita, and in fact more, it is added more. So next, which is very important for all devotees to know, that what are the different aspects of knowledge, like what are different subject matters discussed in the knowledge. So Balaram, can you please put 8 to 12 verse in the screen, so we can actually just go over the subject matters of knowledge, and just maybe one liner for each of the things we discuss. Yeah, 8 to 12. So it says, yeah, maybe we can read Sanskrit. Yeah, just go to Sanskrit because it will be more connected. Yeah. So first says amanitva, means like somebody should be humble, because if you want to understand any science, any spiritual science, in fact any science for that matter, truly you should be humble that you don't know it, and you should approach a teacher or a spiritual master to know it. You should have faith in that. So that requires humility. So you need to understand that humility is an important subject matter of the knowledge. And then adam vityam, you should not be proud of yourselves. You we can think like, we are this, we are that, we have a lot of, ism. So that ism is not applicable when you are trying to get the real knowledge, spiritual knowledge. Then ahimsa means you should not be causing distress to any living entity. Srila Prabhupada very nicely actually gave each of the subject matters very relevant examples how to understand ahimsa. Ahimsa is not only killing animals. It should be like by your body, mind, and words. Nobody should feel distressed. So that is very important that কায় মনে বাক্যে কারো দুঃখ না দিব. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, like, in our body, mind, and words, I should not actually cause suffering to anyone. Then Shanti means like you should have patience. That's a very important quality. If you know that, if you recall that verse in Nectar of Instruction, Utsahar, Utsahan, Dharjat, Ushad Nishya Dharja Tattvat. So here the Shanti is Dharja, patience. It is very important. And Arjavam is simplicity in your life. Like, you should be very, you should not have any conceit, duplicity in your heart, not diplomatic. You should have a very simple heart. If you want to convey any message, you should be straightforward, but you should not keep, grudges against anyone in your heart. Then Acharya Upashanam, which is very important, because this whole process of devotional service is a, Guru Mukhi Vidya, means like the knowledge comes from the spiritual master. If his spiritual master considers you eligible, he can manifest that knowledge in your heart. You don't have to actually, endeavor too much to, memorize the verses or, read too many scriptures. It can manifest in your heart. So that's why we should pray to the spiritual master, and that's why we any of the, spiritual activities, we start remembering the spiritual master and the founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada. Then Shoucham, cleanliness. So Srila Prabhupada is mentioning that, cleanliness can be both inside and outside. So it's both important. That's why when we chant that mantra, while Achman procedure, we said, Anga Pavitra Pavitrava Sarvavastangata Viva Yasmarat Pundarikakshan Sa Bahya Abhyantara Shuchihi. Means like Bahya external and Abhyantara internal. Both way I become purified as soon as I remember the lotus feet of the Pundarikaksha, the Supreme Percent of Godhead, whose eyes are also lotus-like. Yasmarat Pundarikakshan, the person whose eyes are like lotus. As soon as I remember him, I get purified externally and internally. So it's very important to maintain that cleanliness. Prabhupada is mentioning that by cleanliness, the dust of the previous karmas, they get, cleansed. So he's telling that external cleanliness can be maintained by taking care of your bodily level needs, and internal by chanting the holy name, Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, the Cheta Darpana Marjanam Bhagavatam. Then Asthariam is steady. That, is sadhana steady, because sometimes there are so many upheavals in our life, and it's natural that there will be different situations which may not be conducive for devotional service all the time. But we should have a fixed determination that we should continue our service. This is nishchaya, determination. Yes, sthir. Then atma vinigraha. Atma vinigraha means like you are doing austerity. You are actually controlling yourself. There are so many illusions, so many alluring objects which are coming towards you, but you should have that conviction that I can control myself. So Prabhupada very nicely mentioned it. And then indriya artheshu vairagyam. So you should subdue your senses. You should practice austerity. You should you should live in a way that you need minimum requirement of your sense enjoyment. You should eat, but you should not think, okay, I have to eat like a very big feast. You should live in a place which may be, enough comfortable, but not, I should not look for like, I have to live in a mansion or something like that. So you should actually practice austerity in your daily life to subdue the urges of the senses. So Atma Vinigraha and Indriyartheshu Vairagyam, they are close actually. Then Ahankara, Anahankara Evacha, you should not have any ego. Ahankar here actually means like, I am this body, false ego. I am this body, and bodily level activities, bodily level relationships are my identity, and I'm living for this body, those kind of things. Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkho doshanu darshanam. You should see that the real cause of material sufferings, because we have taken birth, we have jara means like this old age, disease, and then death. These are the real suffering. They're not the suffering we are getting mm, uh, uh, like for now we have getting other types of suffering also, that klesha, which is also translated as suffering. But the main suffering is because we have taken a material body, so we have to go through these four stages at any point of our life, and there is no way. So we should actually see that these are the root cause of the suffering. And then ashoktir anavishwangaha, it says we should be actually in not entangled with our kinsmen, those who are our close relatives like wives, children. It's not that you should not be doing your responsibility, or you should not be serving your duty as a father, as a husband, as a son. No, you should be, but you should be indifferent. Just like uh, when Parikshit Maharaj, he was told that he has 7 days to live, immediately he actually left everything. Atmajaya Sutagara Pashudrovena Bandeshu Radya Chavikale Nityam Birurang Mamatang Johu. He had farm, he showed actually externally that he was a very good ruler, he is very attached to his kingdom, he is maintaining everything nicely. But inside heart, he was a pure devotee. That's why as soon as that, that final call came, he left everything. Just like, like he did not have any possession, any material possession, and he took the shelter of Shukdev Goswami to hear the Bhagavatam. So our mood is also like, should be also like that. When the time comes, we should be able to leave everything. We should not keep any attachment to the bodily level relationships. It's difficult, but yeah, that's what. Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, and it says like putro dara grihadeshu means like ashokti anavishwanga putro dara grihadeshu is all together. Nityam cha samachitvam ishta upapattishu. It says we should be equivalence in our pleasure and displeasure. Means we should not be like very elated when the good time comes and very distressed when the bad times comes. This is also very related to the steady part, because sometimes when we are overjoyed or over distressed, it's very difficult to contain the steadiness. So these are uh, help these are all helpful to maintain that the process of sadhana, to understand the spiritual science. Then it says mai chanya yogena bhaktir charini. This is very important for all the qualities here mentioned, all the subject matters, they also actually sprout from here. The person who doesn't have uh, any other external motive, but he is doing service, devotional service for the pleasure of the supreme lord, abhivecharine bhakti, he actually gets all this knowledge about all these subjects matter automatically in his heart. In Chaitanya Charitamrita also, Lord Chaitanya, when he was giving the explanation of the 26 qualities of a Vaishnava, he mentioned that one quality is Krishnaika Sharana. And in the commentary, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada mentioned that all the qualities actually sprout from this quality, Krishnaika Sharana. If somebody is Yashyasta Bhaktir Bhagavatya Akinchana Sarves Gunatatra Samasakana Sura. So if you have Akinchana Bhakti to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all the subject matter of knowledge will manifest in your heart automatically. Anyways, then Vivikta Desha Shevitam Aratir Jana Shamsadi. It says Vivikta Desha Shevitam means like you are able to live by yourself, or in a very secluded way. Now somebody can ask, how actually in these circumstances where we are living in a family or in a society, how can we be individual? So in our Prabhupada's lifestyle, we actually see this thing. Even though he was surrounded by so many disciples, so many uh, people around him all the time, especially later part of his life, he was still individual. And that is another quality of a pure devotee, that they can maintain that gambhirata, this individuality. They are in themselves, they're satisfied, and they are connected to Krishna. That thing is a quality of a pure devotee. So we should try to practice that, how we can be self-sustained. We can be I should say that we should not actually look for association of someone for our pleasure. Okay, then is Aratrir Jana Sangshadi. We should also not associate with those devotees or those people who are materialistic, who don't have same kind of goal in life, like to understand the spiritual science to the to serve the supreme personality of God. These things. Adhatma Jnana Nityatvam. So the understanding that uh, uh, we are Nitya soul, the eternal soul, and we are transcendental. We have that transcendental quality. We should always try to understand this. You can say it is also related to the Aham Brahmasmi, the understanding of that I am also Brahman. That understanding is also important. So these second last qualities, they are more attributed to Tattva Jnanartha Darshanam. Means to understand the spiritual science, we have to always look for sources. These two are mainly applicable for the Gyanis, because for the bhaktas, when they are actually doing the devotional service in the guidance of the spiritual masters, the adhyatma gyan nityatvam and tattva jnanartha darshanam is already covered. They are already covered. But for the gyanis, they want to actually use their intelligence explicitly to understand the relationship uh, uh, of themselves with the supreme. Their understanding is based on their intellectual exercise. So yeah, so these two are mainly attributed, but this also our as I'm telling that these are also covered by the bhaktas, because they are not directly but indirectly they are already covered as the subject matter of knowledge. So anyas etat jnanam iti proktam ajnanam yad ato anyatha. So I consider, Lord Krishna is telling that I consider all these as the subject matters of the knowledge, and anything else other than this is actually subject matter of ignorance, or you can consider them as ignorance. They are not directly related to the knowledge. So anyone wants to add anything regarding this verse, because it's very important verse and it can be expanded, like Sumeru mountain or Himalaya. Actually, I wanted to add one point, that Himalaya has Kailasha, right? But that Kailasha is not manifested to our worldly eyes. So Mataji's point is very valid, that some part of Himalayas is not manifested to us. Yes.
Prabhu,
Yes, Prabhuji.
that Vivikta, the Vivikta Desham, is that says Vivikta Desham, right?
Let me see which one. Can you tell us English for that one?
So Vivikta Desha Sevitvam.
Vivikta Desha Shevitam. Yes.
So is that, does that mean like living in a lonely place, right?
Yes, Akanto. Yes, correct. You're right.
So these verses are from Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam?
Bhagavad Gita.
Okay.
13th
So
chapter.
I was like when you said about Srila Prabhupada,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And Srila Prabhupada was, before coming to the US, he was living in Radha Damodar temple.
Correct.
So I think somewhere around 12 years or 10 years he lived in Radha Damodar temple. Some devotees have taken a snap of him looking through the window towards Rupa Goswami Samadhi. And it was such a simple life. It was totally a simple life. That is only possible for a Atmarama. It is not possible for a materialist. I don't think it's possible for a materialist. So I was like, even we can see, the Atmarama words from Srimad Bhagavatam, right? So only a Bhagavat can lead the example, can show the example on how to really follow the Bhagavatam. It's like manifestation of book Bhagavatam. So, we should, I'm thinking we should also try to, follow their footsteps, if possible. I don't think it is possible, but
Yeah.
by Krishna's mercy, it is possible, right? Anything is
Correct. Yeah. I can just add one thing here in regard to this thing. Lord Krishna actually, while instructing Uddhava, he instructed different yoga processes, karma, jnana, dhyana, different. So he was telling in the instruction one place that yavat karmani kurbito na nirvidyato yavata mat katha shravanadeo shraddha javanna jayate. As long as you don't develop enough faith by hearing about my glories, you should keep on doing whatever you are doing in your activities. But keep hearing, sthane sthita shrutigatam tanubang manovir. By your mind, word, and your body, try to engage in the service to the Supreme Lord. Then when one time you will feel like you are now actually not entangled, you don't have any attraction. That Vaisheshika Maharaji says, like no mass. You feel like, oh, I'm done with this material world. I don't have actually anything real here. It's all illusion. That time, even if you live in your family, you are actually detached. That's what we discussed in the beginning of the class also, right? That we don't have to actually go to Vrindavan to live in Vrindavan. I was discussing with Vijay Damodar Pope in the other day that Srimati Radharani was telling that অন্যের হৃদয় মন মোর মন বৃন্দাবন মনে মনে এক করি জানি তাহা তোমার পদদয় করহ যদি উদয় তবে কৃপা সত্য করি মানি. Means like for other people, mind is heart. Means heart, mind resides in heart. We can also say chitto hridoy, they are same as mind. But for my case, my heart is Vrindavan. So when our heart becomes Vrindavan, we don't have to physically live in Vrindavan. We can live anywhere, but that becomes Vrindavan. If you see that, Bhakticharu Maharaj, when he left his body, he came from Ujjain, which is a topmost holy place, so powerful place, to USA. It's not so holy in terms of, if you consider geographical value. For a spiritual personality, it's not so holy place. But he left his body here. But has he not, got the mercy of Vrindavan, or has he not carried Vrindavan in his heart? Of course he did. That's why it's indifferent for him, because Krishna will make sure that he goes to his, eternal abode. So we should have that faith. So and we should practice. We cannot say that what Srila Prabhupada did directly, that we at the age of 50 he took Banaprastha. His daughter was unmarried at that time, Bhakti Lata Devi, and she never got married afterwards. Yeah, anyways, that's a different history. But the point is, it's not usual to someone take sannyas at the age of 50 when his sons are not established, daughter is not married. But he had to do it because that was his, that was the uh, order of his spiritual master, and it was also maybe ordained by the previous all acharyas. That's why he took it. And if we do that, there is one devotee I can connect with another pastime of Srila Prabhupada. One devotee, he was suffering from very critical disease, some terminal disease. So he came to Srila Prabhupada and told, Prabhupada, I am suffering from this critical disease and I will die in such and such months. So what should I do? And Srila Prabhupada told, you should actually chant day and night. And you should go to, Brajadham or, Mayapur Dham and chant there day and night. Made a kutir, a hut, a thatched hut, and just live there for the rest of your life. So he did it. He has given a Babaji initiation. Babaji initiation means the Paramahansa initiation. Is actually considered higher than even the sannyasis. After sometimes he recuperated from his illness, and he became normal. And he blooped. He left the movement. And Srila Prabhupada told, no more Paramahansa Babaji initiation in our movement. That is it. So this is the problem with, if we just want to transgress or we want to imitate the the Paramahansas rather than following their instructions. So yeah, so your point is valid that if it's possible at some point we should have that desire. But if we do it something which is maybe at this point may not be qualified, then there is a point that we can fall down from our current sadhana position.
Hare Krishna, Koladwip
Hare
Pran.
Krishna. Hare Krishna Mukhabind Prabhuji. Jai.
Hare Bol, Dhanavad Pranam. Thank you so much. I was recently meditating that this verses where Krishna is basically mentioned about the qualities I was reading more in 16th chapter, first to third verse, and had desire to understand more about this verse, the which 13th chapter also where Krishna says, and thank you for illuminating the knowledge and about the qualities of the devotee. And one specifically point, I think what Tadi Seva Prabhu was also trying to get out about that Vivikta Desa Sevitvam. And actually, I remember from His Grace Madhvanand Prabhu from Puri, he he actually he specifically take this class in Gambhira, and he tells about that, like not only this, I think around 2 or 3 places Krishna says this again and again, that how devotees would live alone. I think 6th chapter, and again in I don't exactly remember, but 3 or 4 places Krishna says this. So so he says that, and he gives a very interesting meaning that I remember and might add to this conversation, that he says that this means like living alone in a crowd. He gives this formula like living alone in a crowd, and he gave the analogy of how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, though he was like surrounded in, like he used to go 3 times daily to the Jagannath temple to take the darshan, and he's all associated with all his close associates, so many devotees. But then he has a time, that Gambhira, where he was going deeper and deeper with his emotions with Radharani, and like experiencing that emotion. So similarly, he says that we should have that sacred space in our life. That sacred space can be in your own home, where you are doing your sadhana, where you are kind of, you are living alone in a crowd, like you are still be a part of community, but still you have some space in your house, or somewhere you take deeper shelter of your sadhana, or like deeper shelter of your holy name or something. So that is the one very interesting meaning he gives, like how to learn to live alone in a crowd. Like it doesn't mean that you go to the forest, or you go to the you go to the like just some place, but learn to live alone in a crowd. That's like that's what is one of the message of this Vivikta Dev Sevitvam he gives, and I just remembering. Hare Krishna.
Jaya, excellent addition. So we just that karpur to the nectar, which makes it more palatable. Actually, yeah, I think I also can recall, so to some extent, because you are a scholar, you can recall more vividly. He was telling that this is Jagannath Puri University of devotional love in separation or something like that, and then he start going deep into the
University of Braj Prem.
Braja Prem, yeah. Yeah, thank you for correcting me. Yeah. So yeah, it's very good to recall those fond memories. Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Anyone else has anything to add? Vijay Damodar Prabhu had something. I think he wanted to say something.
Not really, but since it's the order I have to do. So, I think that one time what happened is we were in Palo Alto, and we were doing a roadshow from ISV. And then when I talked to someone, and that lady said that you guys have gender bias, and you see all the men's are dancing separately and women are dancing separately. And I tried to explain it to her, but then she was not agreeing. And I thought that these are the kind of questions that we should have a one-liner, immediate, snappy answer, so that she cannot, it should cut down it immediately. Later, when I thought I could come up with an answer, and I think it's probably applicable here, is that when a man and woman dance together, then they're looking at each other. So when they're looking at each other, they're not solitary, they're dual, right? But when they are men dancing together and women dancing together, they're dancing for you. You are important, and we give you the highest respect as an element of God, and therefore they're not dancing for each other. Similarly, for this Vivek part, right, for solitary aspect, if you see the molecules that are there for iron, right, they are haphazard, pointing in all directions, right? So they are like people in this world trying to live with each other. But once you rub a magnet on it, all of them become aligned, right? And they're all parallel to each other and pointing towards infinity. And therefore, each one of them is solitary at that point of time, even though they're still right next to each other. Similarly, we become Krishna conscious, Krishna oriented, then we are living a solitary life, even though we may actually be having someone, a family member come in and talk to us, but we are actually living in our own world, because that's what our mind is about. So the mind is behaving that like that molecule is aligned towards Krishna. And yes, you may talk to each other and have, but the mind itself is solitary. I think maybe that kind of represents it.
Yeah, very good point, Prabhu. Yeah, you can be acting in a social gathering, but yeah, the mind can be individual. It's not like like
As soon as that
common
attitude,
entity. No, that's true. I agree with what you have said. Anyway, so yeah, so in the chapter as it progressed, then Lord Krishna. So I think as it progressed, he was talking about that famous verse, Sarvata Pani Padantat Sarvata Akshishiro Mukham Sarvata Shruti Mallake Sarvam Abhita Tishtati. So that is a pastime regarding this verse also. So Adita Acharya, he used to teach in his school different devotees. This pastime comes in Mahaprakash Leela and Chaitanya Bhagavat. It's before Lord Chaitanya's advent. He was the only person in Navadvip who was practicing devotional teaching. There may be devotees, but they were not teaching. He had a school where devotees used to come. Even Lord Chaitanya's big brother, what was his name, Bisharup, he used to also come there, and Lord Chaitanya visited in his early age also. Anyway, so whenever sometimes Bhagavad Gita verses are open for many type of interpretation. Like if you take this verse, especially this chapter, 13th chapter, the verses are very blended with impersonal flavor. And so when I impersonally see, oh, these are my verses, these actually shows that that the impersonal is the supreme absolute. He doesn't have a personal form, and nirguna, sarguna, those things come in his mind. So sometimes he could not actually interpret some of the verses in terms of bhakti devotion, and he was very morose. At that day, he used to fast, even though he used to offer bhoga to his deities, but he used to fast it. So Lord Krishna in his Mahaprakash Leela, he was telling that when you used to fast, I could not also accept your bhoga because I cannot tolerate that you are fasting. This is special sweet relationship with the devotees of Lord. He wants to serve his devotees also. Bhakta Vatsala. It's an extreme level Bhakta Vatsala. Anyways, so he told like, I could not also honor the bhoga you rendered unto me. So that time in the dream, he used to give him that knowledge or understanding of those verses. In the dream, he used to come, oh, that verse, okay. Lord Chaitanya himself used to speak to him. Now he is telling in the Mahaprakash Leela that I gave explanation of many verses, but I never gave you the explanation of these verses. Shahasra Pani Padantat, Shahasra Shishiro Mukham, Shahasra Shruti Mallake Sarvam Abrita Tishrit. I think it is the 14th verse, right? Number 14. 13, 14. Yes. So he never gave it. And then he, told like, now listen the meaning of this verse. And he gave the meaning of this verse. And Aditya Acharya, wow, so happy that, Lord remembered everything in detail. And I got all this knowledge from him only. He could understood that, in the dream also he was getting the knowledge from the Supreme Person. Anyway, so in that verse, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada has given a very elaborate explanation in Chaitanya Bhagavat. And he was telling that that Sarva Papakata means like the omnipresence of the Lord can be interpreted in many ways. Srila Prabhupada also actually gave that, Lord, we just spoke about Kshetra and Kshetragyam, right? The person the field and the field of activities. The knower of the field, sorry. The field of activities and knower of the field. So the knower of the field have two aspects. One is the individual aspect, which is the soul, and another one is the aggregated aspect, which is the super soul, who is present in everyone's in everyone's heart as the super soul. So one is the infinitesimal. He only knows maybe in his bodily level actions. Another one is the vibhu, that infinite, who is present in everywhere, in every atom also he is present. Andantarastu paramanu chayantarastam, right? He is present in everyone. So Srila Prabhupada in his purport actually told, I will come to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati purport later. So he's telling that in every living entity, Lord is already present. And every living entity, based on their bodily level constitution, they have hands, they have eyes, they have legs. So all those can be attributed to the Lord also, because the Lord is the controller And para and apara, both energies, the material energy and the spiritual energy, both come from him. So he is the supreme niyanta, supreme controller of everything. So in that way, it is not, it doesn't say that, oh, it is only impersonal aspect of the Lord. No, it is also personal aspect of the Lord. Is Shahasra, he has millions of eyes, millions of ears, millions of hands, millions of legs, because all living entities are also part and parcel of him. And then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in his actually explanation, he was also giving some different aspects. He is telling that if you see that the how the what is it, Srishti means the material world, creation of the material world, how it expands. First, it comes from Karanadaksha Vishnu, all the pores, from all the pores of his body, different universes are created, different elements are created from Mahatattva. And then he, through his glances, he infuses everyone and he enters into those universes as Garbhodaksha Vishnu. And then from Garbhodaksha Vishnu, Lord Brahma is created, and all the 14 planetary systems are created through Lord Brahma and his actions, and different living entities are created also. And inside every living entity, he also enters as Shirodaksha Vishnu as the super soul. So this all three stage are actually coming from him. Maybe not all directly coming from him, but directly or indirectly, he is the source of everything. Karnadaksha Vishnu, Garbhodaksha Vishnu, and Shirodaksha Vishnu. So this is one of his Sarva Vyapakata, means his omnipresence, or in omnipar pervade. What is that word? Yeah, he is pervaded everywhere. That is one thing.
All pervasiveness.
All pervasiveness. Great. Thank you,
Beautiful.
Prabhuji. Yeah. Another thing is like, if Krishna wants, can he expand to innumerable forms? He can. And each of the forms will do different activities, which is his Vaibhava Prakash. I was reading, first canto where Krishna actually was meeting his wives in Dwarka today. There, Krishna simultaneously entered in all the palaces. If you read 10th canto where Narad Muni was visiting, he saw Lord Krishna was doing different activities in different palaces. In Rasa dance, he was dancing with all the gopis simultaneously, and each of them thought like Krishna is dancing with me. And they had different mudras at a single point of time. It's not like, oh, everybody, Krishna is doing same mudra or everybody is doing same mudra. It's not possible. Then it will be banal. It will not be, tasty. The variegatedness need to be there. So this is another thing, that Krishna can have millions of hands, millions of ears through his Vaibhava Prakash. He is the source of these things also. Now, sometimes Krishna, to expand his leelas, like if you think Krishna's leela vilas, how they are happening simultaneously innumerable places, innumerable material world, because right now in some places Krishna is taking birth. That's why we said like these leelas are eternal. Some places Krishna is killing Bakashura. Some places Krishna is dancing with the gopis. In some places Krishna is killing Kamsa. In some places Krishna is actually hanging around with the Yadu Bankshis. Those things are simultaneously happening. So in that sense also, Krishna's hands and feet and everything ears can be innumerable, because he has simultaneous presence. In even Golok Vrindavan also he has a presence. That way also he has innumerable forms, innumerable ears, innumerable actions can be done simultaneously through his transcendental forms. So these are the speciality of Krishna's or the Supreme Personality of God's actions. You cannot actually understand by just attributing our speculative intelligence that or maybe it is because he is all pervasive, he doesn't have any form, he is just a effulgence, something like that. Yeah, the impersonal features. Yeah, so that I wanted to add before we leave, but because in the next part Krishna started speaking more detail about prakriti and purusha, the nature means the all the living entities, and also the material world, and the original enjoyer. Even though living entities, they are not considered as true enjoyer, but in the body they also have some kind of isha quality, controlling quality, and some kind of enjoying propensity and enjoying features also, that we can also enjoy, right, to some extent. But that enjoyment is not complete. That is true. That is that is perverted enjoyment. But the real enjoyment, when we actually serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that is real enjoyment. And he is the original Purusha. Actually, somebody who is enjoying, he is called actually Purusha, enjoyer. And the somebody who is giving enjoyment, he is called actually nature, or the element of enjoyment. So we are actually, we are supposed to be the element of enjoyment of the Supreme Lord and our gurus. They should enjoy us through our service, through our dedication, through our perfection of sadhana. We should actually give pleasure to them. Then our enjoyment will be also complete as the reciprocation. In fact, we'll enjoy more, right? The devotees enjoy more. If you read Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna did not reciprocate the devotion which was given by the Brajavasis. We are reading 4th chapter of Adi Leela right now, right? Why Krishna has advented. Lord Chaitanya has come, the confidential reason of his appearance. Those things are coming right now, right? There he is mentioning that I have a vow that I reciprocate accordingly. But I cannot reciprocate you, Brajavasis, especially the gopis, because your love is so elevated, unflinching. You have loved everything, so I cannot actually reciprocate you. So that's why he has to come as in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to show that love. So the devotees can also enjoy, but that enjoyment is transcendental. It is beyond the moods of material nature. But right now, what we are actually doing, Purusha Prakritistahi Bhunkte Prakriti Jangunan Karanang Gosha Sangasya Sadashat Guna Janmashu. We are actually now enjoying by the modes of material nature. We are thinking we are enjoying, but actually we are not enjoying, because the real enjoyment is the satisfaction of the soul, which is can be attained by the service of the Supreme Personality of God. Yeah, we are, and that's why that is so perversion. One time you are very elated, and next time you are down. And that elation, like I buy a car, maybe 2 day, 3 day, 4 day, 5 day, then I don't like it anymore. That happens all the time. And Vishaka Maharaj also tells, this material world, that enjoyment is so ephemeral. It's so, let's just a twinkle of time, everything becomes old. Anyways, yeah. I don't want to actually continue anymore, because we are almost on the verge of completion of our session. So if anybody wants to add anything, any realization, please go ahead.
Prabhuji, this is Asra Madhav. Sorry, joined late. You're discussing a very interesting chapter of Bhagavad Gita, right? It's Lord Krishna is actually trying to it's one of the most confusing sastra. That's why we kept it for intellectuals, which is Brahma Sutra. It's basically, it really confuses you, basically Brahma Sutra, right? And that is why Vedvyas had to write Bhagavatam.
Yeah.
And 13th chapter of Krishna that is what Krishna is saying in one, I think the 4th or 5th verse is saying that, all this is explained in Brahma Sutra. That is what he's explaining, right? So yeah. So, and one thing I was trying to think about this whole Vairag thing, right? I think you're talking about Vairag also there. And Vairag is okay if you have a higher mission. Vairag, because of frustration from the life, in the material life. If you have a higher mission, there is a problem with the current material life, and you have a higher mission, then probably Vairag is okay. Otherwise, your mind will keep bothering you. That is what Krishna was saying in the, I think in 2nd or 3rd chapter, that if you renounce the activity and go, then those thoughts in your mind will bother you. So you have to replace it with a higher mission, like Srila Prabhupada had. He had a higher mission to serve his spiritual master. Correct. Otherwise, Vairag is actually in Kali Yuga particularly, it is very difficult, because we don't have that level of concentration or intelligence to sustain that Vairag, basically. So we have to have a very strong mission coming from spiritual master or Krishna himself. Then I think Vairag will be successful. Otherwise, Vairag is very high chance that we'll go back to even worse condition than we were in families, basically.
Correct. Very good point, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Vairagya is it should be like pure devotees. They should not think like, oh, I will do renunciation. Rather, they should actually start, as we are discussing with Tadya Seva Prabhu, that we should actually start keep doing what we are doing in our present situation. and then we should expect for mercy from the Supreme Lord, so that we have the transcendental realization.
Oh, I'd like
But
to add one thing for the
yes,
Vairagya
Prabhuji.
part. Actually, yes, it is right, as is very popularly mentioned, Krishna consciously to replace it with something good. But one thing that is definitely in favor of Vairagya is it doesn't add new attachments. So that is there. The old attachments will keep coming back to you, right? But if someone never saw a cell phone, then they would not think about how to connect to my brother in Japan while I am living in a forest.
That
in
is correct,
Madagascar.
Prabhu. That
So
is
there's
correct.
definitely advantages to it, and we can
That is correct.
take recourse for that. But there is no, I mean, Krishna conscious Krishna. If you spell it with positivity, why worry about Vairagya?
Yeah.
That is definitely true.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Anybody wants? Anybody has anything, or we can
I
actually
just have a
conclude this
complaint that the time flew very fast.
Yeah.
5 hours.
No, yeah, I like today's discussion because so many devotees, they actively took part
Arvinda Prabhu,
rather than a
Virat.
monologue. Yeah, so many devotees. You yourself, your guests, and Tadya Seva Prabhuji, Shraddha Mataji, Mukhavind Prabhuji, Asha Mata Prabhu, very nicely they all took part in the discussion. It was very helpful for me as well. So thank you,
Hare Krishna.
everyone.
One
Yeah,
last
Mukhavind Prabhuji.
question.
Yes, go ahead.
No, I
Prabhuji.
was just thinking a very interesting point, Vijay Damodar Prabhu, you brought, and maybe it's question for you that that you told that with the Vairagya there is no attachment comes, and just to give like I'm sure you might be also know that story that there is a one sadhu and then he just left everything and then he had just coping and then he start taking care of the cow. Oh, sorry, like even the Vairagi can also get attached to the his copine or his like loincloth, like, and then that can that can that can I don't know if that story I don't remember exactly, but that
Oh, yeah.
he take care of
I
the
know what you're
cow and
talking
then the
about.
kid take
He
care of
gets
the
attached to the begging bowl. He gets attached to the
Yeah,
begging
that is
bowl.
Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's Upadeshamrita story. Yes.
Yeah, the begging bowl, right? He gets
Yeah.
attached to
Yeah.
the.
Go ahead, Prabhu Mukherjee Prabhuji.
Sorry,
no,
bro.
I was just trying to understand how like that was that how like Vairagi there's a one good thing that they don't get attached. So I was just trying to
Yeah, I was saying no new things will get attached to it. But
no,
you are
but I'm
right that mind is so active. Whatever it has, that is itself good enough for attachment. It doesn't even want something new.
Yeah. So
Good,
very
good.
good point. Very good point, Prabhuji. Yeah. So yeah, the attachment is not so easy to get rid of, but in the heart, if we are actually doing pure devotional service, then it comes automatically. Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, they showed it. Actually, they were all family men, right? They were in the top position. But when time came, Lord Chaitanya told Raghunath Das Goswami when he came to meet him first time, he told, no, not now. When the time will come, I will call you. And when the time came, he knew that, Lord Chaitanya inspired him and then he left home. He was such a, yeah, anyways. So the point is, it will be a
Prabhuji,
calling
yeah, you
from
are
heart.
right.
Yeah.
Attachment, it is very difficult to give because as a soul, essentially we are attached to Krishna.
Mhm.
But because we cannot see Krishna, we get attached to his energies because, we falsely think that Krishna is there. Our soul is saying, oh, you see, there is Krishna there. That cell phone is actually indirectly Krishna, although perverted, right? So we have that attachment and everything is directly, indirectly coming from Krishna only because that cell phone is created by someone. That mind came from Krishna, that intelligence came from Krishna based on the 7th chapter, right? All the raw materials came from Krishna. All those who designed also came from Krishna. So if you look at it, it's basically Krishna. But that Krishna's personal form is not there. And it's a perverted form. It's all broken and only a part of it. So we never get satisfaction. Then we move from one thing to another, until we, see Krishna, real Krishna, then we forget about other things. So that until we see that, we'll have to keep hopping from one thing to another.
I just want to add one last thing before we leave today. So in Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in the explanation of first verse of Niktam instruction, which is quoted by Srila Prabhupada, he was telling that there are two types of attachment. We relate to every object in two ways. One is abhirada priti and viradjukta krodh. If we are able to enjoy it, we have a kind of a friendly relationship with that object. If we don't have option to enjoy it, we have some anger or some kind of distaste. Some or other we are entangled because of that. If you are indifferent with that object, then we are not entangled. What happens if you are not bothered that what is happening in US election? Then the result will not affect you, will it? No. But if you think, oh, that person is my person, I have a relationship with him,
Yeah.
that person is not my person, then the result will affect you. You cannot sleep. You will be always, in a mental pressure, blood
Anxiety.
pressure, those things. Yeah, anxiety. Anyways,
So,
thank you. Yes.
Can you repeat those two
the
points?
renunciation principle, there is actually a warning.
Okay.
Like I think Srila Prabhupada was giving some examples about renunciation, and then he was talking about artificial renunciation, and then he was giving an example where some devotees came to Vrindavan as a sannyasi, but they were, but they left the home and then they left the family, and they came to Vrindavan, but they couldn't control their senses, and they fall in trap with the woman in Vrindavan.
Correct. Yeah.
So something, did you hear about that?
Yeah. Abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha uchyate. You have to practice renunciation. It's not like it will come overnight. It is a steady process. I have not heard this specific pastime, but yeah, this is very common, right? In Vrindavan, a lot of Babajis or those so-called sannyasis, they do a lot of nasty things. Anyways, thank you, Prabhuji. I think we are already over time by 7 minutes. Thanks everyone for joining today. It was very lively discussion. I really appreciate all of your association, and I beg forgiveness if I have spoken something which is against the principle of our Acharya's teachings. Panchakalpatarubhascha kripashandubhya patidanam pavanebhya Vaishnavebhya Nama Namaha. Anandakoti Vaishnav Brindav ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Nitai Gaur Shri Tanat Prem Anande.